This is a 2026 Kia K4 Hatchback GT Line Turbo. A year after introducing the new for 2025 K4 compact sedan, Kia brought us this hatchback version, which is new for this year. It retains the same sharp creases and tight lines of the sedan, but with a shooting brake profile and additional cargo space. This GT Line Turbo marks the top of 3 trims offered above the EX and GT Line trims. It stands out with 18-inch wheels, an acoustic windshield, gloss black accents, alloy pedals, and, of course, a turbocharged engine under the hood. Not only does this K4 hatchback look fantastic, it feels surprisingly sporty behind the wheel. So let's find out how it drives. But first, let's talk price and look at a few details. Going hatchback costs about $1,000 more than a K4 sedan, and only the 3 highest trims are offered here. As a result, base price of the K4 Hatchback EX starts at $26,235. My GT Line Turbo test car rings up at $33,020, courtesy of a technology package, an optional paint color, and carpeted floor mats. All right, let's take a quick look around and inside this K4 hatchback. The Kia K4 hatchback is new for 2026 and, up front at least, has the same sharp lines as the sedan. And if you go with the GT Line version of the hatchback, there are a few clues. First of all, you get these 18-inch wheels. The EX comes with 17s, and they look nice. You also get this slightly different front grille, and you'll see gloss black accents throughout the body. And finally, and this is for the GT Line Turbo specifically, you get these LED projector headlamps, and I think these look fantastic. Looking at the K4 hatchback in profile, this gives you a nice look at the sparkling yellow paint. This is a $395 optional color. I think it looks more mustard than sparkling, but whatever. I also think it looks quite nice. And you get a sense of the size. This is not a very big vehicle, and I actually really appreciate that. You could see the shooting brake hatchback dimensions when we looked at the car in profile, but it's crystal clear when you look at the rear of the car. Of course, we've got a roof-mounted spoiler. Every hatchback crossover anything does. This one is not subtle either, but I do think this is overall a nice looking design. Kia has this really nice vertically stacked taillight setup and just a lot of good specific design cues. And not only is this a cool look for the Kia, it does also offer more cargo space. Lift the hatch and you get 22 cubic feet of space behind the second row, and underneath the floor we do get a space saver spare tire. So yes, a real space saver tire under there, not an inflation kit. Pull out the privacy panel, fold down the seats, which is easy to do right from the back, and you have more than 22 cubic feet of space. Kia doesn't say, but it looks like a fair amount to me. Inside the second row, it's actually not too bad in here considering the size of this car. The seat bottoms are a little on the low side, so I only have so-so thigh support. But check this out, the front seat's comfortable for me up front. I'm 5 feet 11 inches tall, and look at that, I still have several inches of knee room. And I also have headroom, plenty of it in fact. I do also have a couple of USB Type-C ports, that little tray, and of course, my beloved armrest with cup holders. One other option we have is carpeted floor mats for $190, and they are lovely. But the big option is the GT Line technology package, which I'll talk about a couple things in a moment. We do have this black interior, but we do have white inserts. You see them on the seats and accented on the door, and I like the fact that it says GT Line right there. Inside the K4 hatchback, we are awash with screens. It is the digital dual display or dual digital display that we see right here. We get two 12.3-inch screens, one for the digital instrument cluster, a second for the center display. The digital instrument cluster, that is part of the GT line. The center display is standard equipment. But in between the two, we also have a 5-inch climate display. That's interesting. It's all connected in this long table of screens, you can call it. Push button starts down here. And you can see that we have easy to adjust telescope and tilt in the steering, manually done. And we have a healthy amount of standard features. The wireless charging pad right down there, standard equipment. We also have a couple of USB ports right here and a 12-volt charge port right there with this cool little spring-loaded action to open and close it. Also standard, heated seats, which the button is mounted on the door right here. But because we have the GT Line Turbo technology package, we also get ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel and driver's seat memory. That is a $2,300 package and also comes with a bunch of other stuff. Here is the 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster lit up and the 12.3-inch center display. In between, that's the climate display right there, and it comes with a neat trick. This little button right here, press it, and most of the display becomes the climate control system. You can see the dual zone setup, the auto button, all those kinds of things. It's not all touchscreen though, of course. We do have real buttons just beneath it, including a power button and volume knob right there. And then we have real buttons for the HVAC controls as well. It is standard dual zone climate control system. Pretty darn normal shifter. And these super clever cup holders right here. Super clever because it's a nice big space right here, but they become nice cup holders that help hold pretty small cups in place, but still hold big cups at the same time. Finally, drive modes. The button is down here, part of the steering wheel, and we get normal and sport driving modes. I'm gonna spend most of the time in the normal driving mode, but I assure you we will spend some time in the sport driving mode as well. So I'm excited to get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. The base engine of the K4 hatchback resides in 2 of the 3 trims offered. It's an efficient 2-liter inline 4-cylinder making 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque, which hooks up to a continuously variable transmission and powers the front wheels. But this GT Line Turbo swaps in a 1.6-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder and delivers 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Even better, that power then goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission before heading to the front wheels. In this small hatchback, that turbo lump delivers 26 miles to the gallon in the city, 33 on the highway, 28 combined. This turbocharged 1.6-liter has been around in a while, and I've driven it in several Kias now. And it's developed into a balanced, smooth-running powertrain that delivers near-linear power buildup. It also sounds pretty darn good running up to its red line. Yeah, that's stout. That is stout. It is a nice, smooth, rev-happy 4-cylinder. We get a red line a little bit under 6,500 RPM, which for a turbocharged engine is above average, I have to say. Whenever you floor it, it needs a moment to kick down, but once it kicks down, you get immediate press of mid-range power, and then nice, clean revs to the red line, quick shifts, and good pull. And that's in the normal drive mode. Put it in sport mode, slow down a little bit, floor it again. Ah, the kick down is faster that way. Ah, yeah, and it's just good power. It's stout power. You get good mid-range grunt, a healthy amount right from 3,000 RPM and on, and it just keeps pulling as you go and gets a little bit stronger as it gets closer to that red line. I really like it. Now, this isn't fast. This isn't a hot hatch, certainly, but it is a warm hatch. Still in sport mode, I'm gonna try from an even slower speed. All right, just creeping along, about 20 miles an hour for the accelerator. Yeah, see there, you get the nice mid-range there. Yeah, that's good. That is good feel, good pull. This is a stout motor, it really is. But it does make me wonder what it's like to really stretch its legs. Of course I had to do an acceleration test. Let me show you that right now. Time for an acceleration test. I do have the K4 in the sport driving mode, and I did turn off traction and stability control, but I'm not expecting that much wheel slip. Let's find out. All right, coming to a complete stop. Foot harder on the brake, floor the accelerator. 2,400 RPM off the brake. Not bad, but not very hard launch, no tire slip. But yeah, good revs and good pull. Really, pretty darn decent. Oh, we're still pulling. Wow, okay. So pretty light launch, even with the brake torquing. We didn't get that much out of it. But then the torque really kicked in of that 1.6 liter turbo, and the pull kept going well past the usual speeds. We got muscle and we kept accelerating well. Yeah, overall, this is a strong motor and a good fit for the Kia K4 hatchback. All right, let's dig into the chassis. We get the most common suspension setup in the K4 hatch, struts up front and a multi-link independent suspension in back. However, if you go with a base EX trim, you get a torsion beam solid rear axle. I'd say the GT line models are worth it for that fact alone. Furthermore, GT lines get a sportier tune of the suspension for better body control when the going gets spirited, which in this video, it does. Like I said before, this is not a hot hatch, but it is a warm hatch. They tune the suspension relatively well. If I turn the wheel, I get some, but not a lot of body roll. And it's balanced. There's a good balance between the front and the rear. And again, that was in the normal driving mode. If I put it to sport, yeah, obviously there's no suspension adjustment, and I crank the wheel even harder. There's pretty much the same feel from the steering as well. So the different drive modes give you different powertrain adjustments, not much else. Either way, I'm happy with the balance of this chassis. I think it's plenty comfortable on the roads. I've been on some bumpy roads and it handles that just fine, but it's not roly-poly. It's fairly flat through the corners, and I appreciate that. Especially in a small hatchback like this, you want a bit of sport in it. One of the reasons the steering does feel as good as it does, however, is that this is a GT line car. The EX version of this hatchback has a slightly slower steering ratio, so it's 2.5 turns lock to lock instead of 2.4. And again, the suspension tune is stiffer, it's sportier in the GT line car. So those two things combined do help improve the steering feel. But I also have to say, you gotta go with the GT line because the EX has the torsion beam solid rear axle. It's a simple suspension, it's an inexpensive suspension, and it's a space efficient suspension, but it's not good for ride and handling. It's a compromise. You'll start getting the car jutting over bumps in a weird way in the rear. And I do think it's a bit of a shame that Kia still offers a solid rear axle even as an option. I think the base suspension should be four-wheel independent. No matter, this one is, and it's felt pretty sporty from the beginning, so of course I had to do a handling test. Let me show you that right now. All right, time for a handling test. I do have it in the sport driving mode, of course, and I do also have both traction and stability control disabled. So let's see how it feels. Good pull from the engine, to be sure. Happy with that. You know, not that bad. Decent grip and not that much body roll. Being in the sport mode, it keeps us in a nice low gear. I even got a little bit of the rear end to kind of kick out a little bit there. That was nice. That is a nice first impression of this K4 hatchback. It's not hot hatch levels of performance, but it's not that far off. It's pretty darn capable and enjoyable. I got good levels of assistance from the power steering. I've got nice fast steering, so it responds well. Yeah, you know, good start. reasonable control over those whoops in the road. Yeah, it's pretty darn easy to find the limit of this thing, and it's a reasonably high limit, and you can control it pretty well. Good chassis balance even. So if you push it, there is understeer, to be sure. You can feel that understeer when you really dig into a tighter corner, but generally speaking, it holds the road well, it has good chassis balance, and the understeer is controlled. Just about every car will spend some time on the interstate. This K4 is obviously not an exception. I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. Okay, time for a brief stint on the interstate. See how the K4 hatchback feels on the open road. I have cruise control set to 78 miles an hour to go with traffic, and I do have all the driving assist systems on, of which there are many, including lane assist. Now I have to keep my hands on the wheel for this, but I'm not doing any of the work. It's doing all of it for me, to change lanes for me, check to see if it was clear, etc., etc., etc. But I do also have steering assist. I am going through a curve right now. So with my hands off the wheel, we're staying pretty darn centered in the lane right now. It does weave back and forth just a little bit. It's not as good as Toyota's lane tracing assist, but it's definitely keeping us pretty well centered all in all. I also have a couple of clever tricks. Let me show you. Just like a lot of Hyundai and Kia products, if you turn on the left signal, the speedometer becomes a camera, and if you turn on the right, the tachometer becomes a camera. Both lovely and helpful things. Also, we have this helpful little screen right here in the center to show you what the car sees on the road. As you can see, we do get 3 lanes of assistance right here. We are surrounded by a bunch of trucks right now. So yeah, all in all, it's a useful, helpful system. More fundamentally, I am pleasantly surprised at the level of cabin isolation we have here. We've got a fair amount of just reality of highway coming through, but this is above average for a compact sedan or hatchback, to be sure. Top that off with a very easy to read display here for both the instrument cluster and for the center display. I have nice and comfortable seats with good amount of support. Yeah, this would be a fantastic highway cruiser. So, what do I think of this Kia K4 hatchback? I think it looks fantastic to start off. Kia designers have really been hitting some home runs here. I liked the K4 sedan quite a lot, and I think this is an improvement over that. $1,000 for the hatchback is money well spent on the styling side alone. It's also really comfortable inside. I like the support level of these seats. I have good bolstering up top and even some decent bolstering down low, and I have decent space. Now, I wouldn't want adults to be in the second row for a road trip, but short drives would be totally fine. And the hatchback also delivers a healthy amount of cargo space. The K4 hatchback is stylish, it's practical, and it's economical. $33,000 is a lot of money, but it's a lot less than the average price of a car these days. It's also a lot less than most compact crossover SUVs these days. So really, if you don't need all-wheel drive, you don't need a compact crossover. Something like this will do the job and do it well. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.